Nurses who struggle to breastfeed may show bias towards breastfeeding in the hospital. And that's not necessarily their fault. They might not even know they're doing it, but it is important for you to know because that does affect the quality of care that you get. So how many different providers are available to help you reach your goals? And then think about, are there pumps available in your birth setting in case there is a reason for you to pump right away? Because we know that sometimes milk supply gets delayed in situations where baby and mom are separated in the beginning and feeding doesn't happen right away. Before we begin, I want to share something special with all of you expecting parents out there. As an internationally board certified lactation consultant, I've seen firsthand how a little planning can go a long way to helping you achieve your baby feeding goals. That's why I'm offering you my free ebook. It's called Birth Practices to Support Breastfeeding, and it's a workbook. So check out the link in the description below. Hi, welcome back to Lo's Lactation Lab. I'm Lo Nigrosh, an international board certified lactation consultant, a birth doula, and a certified childbirth educator. And I am on a mission to make feeding your baby easier and filled with more joy and less frustration. Today, I want to tackle the topic of how you can prepare for breastfeeding your baby while pregnant. So many people while pregnant are doing everything they can to prepare for their new baby to come. Often, these preparations look like buying things, getting the crib set up, painting the nursery, buying the clothing you'll need, making sure you have diapers, getting your gift registry prepared, figuring out which bottles you want, ordering your breast pump. And these are all really important things. However, I might argue that the most important thing that you can do is set yourself up for success with feeding your baby, especially if you feel very strongly about wanting to breastfeed, or at least providing your milk to your baby if pumping feels like the better option for you. And if you're here, then that must be something that's on the top of your mind. So I'm so glad you're here. Let's go over what you can do right now to set yourself up for success once your baby is born. When I am able to meet with a patient prenatally, I hear from them that they feel so much better about what to expect once their baby is born when it comes to baby feeding. Conversely, I hear from so many patients who say, I had no idea that breastfeeding was going to be as hard as it is. Or I had no idea that breastfeeding could be so complicated. I thought that this was just a natural process, that I would get it, that my baby would get it. Or I hear from people who say, I knew it was going to be hard because I have friends or family members who had difficulty with breastfeeding or for whatever reason were not able to. And that plants seeds of doubt on whether or not you will be able to do it. So let me tell you right now, you can feed human milk to your baby. And we know that any amount of human milk that you feed to your baby can only affect their short-term and long-term health outcomes positively. We know that 1 teaspoon of breast milk has millions of antibodies that help protect the baby. And especially when we think about colostrum, which is the very first milk that your body produces, it is the milk that is in your breasts right now while you are pregnant, which is so crazy to think about. So even if you are only able to feed colostrum to your baby, that's a win. That sets your baby up for long-term positive outcomes. So being prepared prenatally can do so much to set you up for success in both physically being able to provide breast milk to your baby and in being able to pivot when the need arises, when your baby's unique situation dictates that you need to make a different decision. So, the first thing I like to discuss when thinking about baby feeding is thinking about what your days look like now. What are the things that you need to get done on a daily basis? And how much time does that take? Because honestly, so much time is devoted to feeding your baby. If you think about the fact that a baby feeds every 2 to 3 hours on average, some babies more frequently than that, especially in the beginnings, and very rarely will newborn babies, feed less frequently than that. That is a lot of time devoted to feeding your baby, from getting set up, getting all your pillows ready, which can take a while in the beginning, finding the right position, helping baby get latched when baby is learning a new skill as well. And let's say feeding takes anywhere between 20 and 45 minutes. If you're feeding 12 times a day, which is every 2 hours, then that's 12 hours or so devoted to feeding your baby, not to mention the time that you need to sleep and the time that you need to shower and the time that you need to eat and the time that you need to prepare for other household tasks. So if you think about that, how much time is devoted to feeding, the very first thing that you and your partner can do when preparing for breastfeeding is to talk that through. Write out every single feeding on a piece of paper. Go from 8 a.m. on one day to 8 a.m. the next day, and notice how little time you have for cooking, for washing dishes, for doing laundry, for taking a shower, for feeding yourselves, for caring for your pets, and come up with a plan with your partner about how you are going to get that done. Some things include hiring a postpartum doula or inviting a close family member to come and stay for a week or two while you get acclimated to feeding and all the time that it takes. Freezing meals in advance or switching to a meal delivery service for a few weeks during that early postpartum period, or asking somebody to create a meal train for you, or choosing to do grocery delivery instead of doing the grocery shopping yourself. Changing the types of foods that you eat. Maybe you do mostly home-cooked meals now, but you may need to do more frozen foods or more pre-prepared foods just in the beginning so that you can get nutrition into your body while you are also feeding another human from milk that your body is making. And then I would like you to think about what your ideal feeding situation looks like. So this is something that you make a decision on yourself, and then you discuss with your partner or whatever support people that you have so that they know what your ideals are. And just because you name your ideal does not mean that you cannot pivot to a different scenario once your baby is with you and you have started trying to feed your baby and you come across difficulties or you find that your feelings towards body feeding are different than what you expected. So coming up with an ideal does not mean that you have to stick to that ideal, but having an ideal helps you to prepare in the right way. So are you dead set on exclusive body feeding, if at all possible? Are you wanting to do a mix of body feeding and pumping so that partner can provide bottles to the baby? Are you not really sure which of those is ideal for you? Are you wanting to do a mix of breast milk and formula? Do you feel adamantly against formula? I have lots of clients who answer these questions in very different ways. So talk through that with your partner and decide what feels right for you based on the information you have right now. And then once you have come to that decision, be sure to talk with your care providers about that decision. If you've chosen your pediatrician, check with your pediatrician, do a nurse visit, and ask how they respond to these various goals. Who do they refer to when you're having difficulty? What is their response when you don't want to feed formula? How do they work with you to make sure that you can reach your goals with supportive providers? And then I think it's a good idea to look at the place where you will be birthing, whether it's a hospital or a birthing center, or perhaps you're planning on a home birth. Check with the stats of your particular setting and try to determine what sort of help is available within that place. Are there IBCLCs that are there to support you? That stands for International Board Certified Lactation Consultants, which is the gold standard in lactation care. Or if there aren't, what is the credential for the supporters that are there? Are those supporters there full-time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Or are they only there for certain hours? Because it's important to know going into your birthing situation how hands-on the breastfeeding help will be. Is the hospital a baby-friendly hospital? Have all the nurses been trained on breastfeeding? We know that some studies show that however a provider fed their baby, they are more biased towards that type of feeding. So nurses who struggle to breastfeed may show bias towards breastfeeding in the hospital. And that's not necessarily their fault. They might not even know they're doing it, but it is important for you to know because that does affect the quality of care that you get. So how many different providers are available to help you reach your goals? And then think about, are there pumps available in your birth setting in case there is a reason for you to pump right away? Because we know that sometimes milk supply gets delayed in situations where baby and mom are separated in the beginning and feeding doesn't happen right away, and milk removal using a pump does not happen right away. So check to see what's available there, or do you need to bring your own pump? The other thing that you want to do is get an idea of what your phalange size will be going into your birth situation. So most pumps come with a size 24 and a size 28 millimeter phalange. And the vast majority of people use anywhere between a size 10 millimeter and a size 17 millimeter breast phalange. So that is a really huge difference. And we know that phalange size matters when it comes to both comfort while pumping and milk output. So getting the right size in advance, at least an approximate size, is going to be really helpful to be able to go into the hospital knowing that if you need to pump, that you will be able to, and be able to do so as efficiently as possible. And the way that you can get your phalanges sized is through a prenatal consultation with an IBCLC who offers phalange sizing as one of their services. And of course, I am a provider who does that. I would love to help you with phalange sizing, whether that's in person or virtually. I'm happy to do that for you. And then you also want to make sure that you know who your supporters are going to be when it comes to feeding your baby. So you are in the hospital, or if you give birth in a hospital, you're there anywhere between 3 and 5 days, depending on what type of birth you have, if all goes well. And then you're sent home. And one of the times that I hear from clients the most when they're freaking out and their stress levels are really high is those first few days when they get home and they had all this around the clock support while they were feeding their baby, and then suddenly it's not there anymore. And so who are you go to when you are struggling? Now, this can be peer supporters. This could be a sister who has fed, or a neighbor who has breastfed, or a friend who you really trust and feel confident in who can help you. But sometimes this needs to be a professional. This needs to be an IBCLC. You want somebody who can either meet with you virtually or come to a home visit, especially in those first few days when it's still really hard to move around. You're still recovering from the birth process itself. You still might be very sore. And Getting baby in and out of the car seat and into the car is more challenging. And you want this person to support you in whatever your goals are. And when you speak with them, you want to feel like you're receiving a hug, that you're being comforted, that you're getting really good information that is specific to your individual situation. And if you don't feel that way, then find somebody else. It's okay to call a few providers and to see who matches most with your personality, whose training most matches your desired feeding outcomes, and to go with the person who your gut tells you is going to be the best supporter for you. Because you can have the best laid plans, you can read all the right books, and still you may encounter difficulty. Once you decide who you want to be, your supporter, your professional supporter, your IBCLC, I highly recommend that you book a prenatal consultation because every person is different. We can help you to determine if you have any underlying root causes that might impact milk supply. We can do that phalange sizing, which I mentioned already. We can help you come up with a baby feeding plan that is specific to how much support you will have or how little support you will have or what your home environment is like or how quickly you will be going back to work or whether or not you have other kids at home or if you have any neurodiversity or you have mental illness that needs to be addressed. There are situations that are specific to you that can only be addressed through an individualized appointment. And of course, I would love to be the person that does that prenatal consultation with you. Even if you need to see somebody in person down the line, I would love to be the person who sees you virtually or in person for that prenatal consultation. And then spend some time once you've had your prenatal consultation and once you've gone through what your feeding ideals would be, spend some time educating yourself with resources that will be there to support you and support your goals instead of confusing you. And if you go to my website, www.quabbinbirthservices.com, you will see that I have a whole list of approved books about breastfeeding that you may want to check out, either buying them through my website, there are links there, or getting them on audio to listen that way. But choose the books that you know are going to support your goals and not ones that are going to make you feel confused about baby feeding biology, because so many baby feeding books out there do not present biologically accurate information, and it's more culturally relevant information. And then you may want to go online and watch some videos of babies feeding, or you may want to attend an in-person support group where you can see babies feeding and asking people in that support group, what has been your biggest challenge? What was surprising to you about baby feeding? What was awesome to you about baby feeding? What was your birth setting like? Especially if they live in your area, they may have birthed in a place that you will be birthing in, and you can ask questions about what the support was like there. Some of the places that you can check out to see if they offer in-person support groups are La Leche League International, which most people know about, Breastfeeding USA, and then also call your local hospitals and your local IBCLCs to see if any of them offer support groups that you can attend prenatally. Most of the time, they're going to be very welcoming to somebody who is trying to prepare in the prenatal period. So with that, those are the things that you can do to prepare for breastfeeding right now while you're still pregnant. I am so glad that you are here with me listening to this, and I cannot wait to see your name pop into my inbox as you have booked a prenatal consultation. Have a great week.